Welcome to Figuring Out Homestead Life with Ginny and Allison.
Hey, Allison.
Hi, Ginny. How are you today?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. Good. It is warm. Oh, it's only 80 degrees.
Only.
Only.
At least it's not
Only.
raining. We've had nice weather here for the past couple days, so that's been nice. I've been enjoying it.
That's great. I think we have rain in the forecast this afternoon.
Oh, okay. I think it's holding off here. I'm actually going to a blueberry festival at a local farm where they're supposed to have some music and barbecue and
Blueberries.
blueberries.
Well,
So,
that's awesome.
yeah, should be fun.
Do you need to even buy blueberries?
I technically don't probably, but I'll probably just get, some while I'm there. Just make extra goodies with them.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe before we get too far into talking about blueberries, we should talk about what we're up. Never mind. I'm going to stop. We were talking about what we're up to. So,
Well, yeah.
it's like, oh, wait.
Yeah, so what's been going on what's been going on with you the past week?
Oh, the past week. Um, lots of mowing. Lots of mowing, animals, time with Claire Cow, time off the farm at work. Yeah, dogs. We're still working on Randy's tiny house.
Cool.
Yeah, and you?
Our meat birds came on Friday, so that was exciting. The 16 chicks, they seemed perfect. They all seem to be doing really well. They're eating a lot.
Yes.
A lot. I was like, whoa, because I didn't know compared to like the layers, like if I would notice a difference. And it seems like they're very ferocious with the eating.
Yes.
I can't believe how much food I've already gone through. So, yeah. So, and then I harvested my garlic today, which was
nice.
Almost all of it. There's like one kind that is still kind of small. So I'm just going to leave it in there for another week or so and see if it gets any bigger. So
okay.
That was nice. Can you braid garlic? Do you like know how to do that? Because I cannot do it and I don't know why. And it's really frustrating because I know how to braid.
Yeah. So I saw a video recently where they took the stems and because it's usually hard neck garlic, right?
Well,
that
I
you grow in the
both.
Northeast.
I
Okay.
did soft neck, so I could braid it, but I can't do it. I don't know. It's like a mental block. I was like sweating, like I couldn't do it.
I saw that they kind of like they didn't break the stem. Oh, yes, they did. They so for the hard neck, they took the leaves and kind of separated the leaves, and they took the hard, the long hard stem part of it.
Yep.
And then they just braided it.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't do it. Like I don't understand what my issue is because I can braid, like I can braid hair.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's so frustrating. I was just forget it. I wanted to put flowers through it and make it all nice. I was just like, no, just forget it. It's going in a big bowl after it cures. I don't know what my mental problem is. It's like it's like a block.
Oh.
But that's
so are the leaves still attached?
Yeah, I mean, well, because it's the soft neck one that I was trying to braid, so I don't, I was watching 100 YouTube videos. I was like, okay, it seems easy. I'm doing it. And then I get like 3 in and then it just gets all discombobulated and it's just a big knot. That's all right.
Are you adding more to it as you go?
Yeah. I don't know what my issue is. I'll have to like sit with someone. But
maybe there'll be somebody at the Blueberry Festival.
Yeah. Can you help me
with braided garlic?
I used to braid my Barbie's hair. Like I know how to do it. But that's about it, I think, for us. Yeah, just the chickens and the garlic. And Oh, my kombucha. I finished my kombucha. So that was fun. I actually just drank my first bottle of the second ferment, the flavored one.
Okay.
Yeah, I did
Yep.
strawberry lemon. It was pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I need to bottle some up.
Are you going to do different flavors this time or?
Yeah, I think I do still have a mango in the fridge. If it hasn't gone bad yet, I'll probably use the mango. I do have strawberries in the freezer. So yeah,
Cool.
yes.
So do we want to get going on talk about our topic?
Sure.
So we're talking all about food preservation, which is a pretty broad topic. As I was writing down notes, I'm like, wow, there's a lot to say about food preservation. Lots of different methods and stuff to go over.
Definitely. Many different ways to preserve food, either store-bought food or homegrown food, like garlic.
Yes. So I did I wrote out different methods and just like a quick description of what each method kind of entails. Do you want me to go over that quick just so we know like what we're talking about or like others do as we're discussing?
Sure.
So, okay. So the first one I wrote was dehydration, which you can either air dry, you can use your oven, or you can have an actual dehydrator to do that, which is basically removing all the moisture from the food. You can water bath can, which is for high acid foods or foods that have acid added into them to make them a pH of 4.6 or lower, which is usually fruits, jams, jelly, although some fruits do require added acid. You can pressure can, which is for foods with very little acid, like vegetables, meat, stews, sauces. They need to be pressure canned to get to a high enough temperature to kill the bacteria. You can freeze. You blanch the vegetables prior to preserve crispness. You can do root cellar storage, which is you cure fruit or vegetables first, which creates a hard layer on the food item prior to storage, which is for potatoes, garlic, onions, winter squash, those type of things. And then curing smoking is another method, which is used most commonly for meats or fish. Or fermentation, fruits and vegetables. It creates it's a craft of preserving by attracting good bacteria, which is also great for your gut health.
Yes.
So I think those are all the methods, or the ones that I was familiar with.
Yes. Something a new kind of, I want to say it's kind of a new one, and it kind of pertains to freezing, but freeze drying.
Yes, freeze drying. That's right. Yeah, which seems to be pretty hot right now. Everyone keeps talking about it.
It does. It has some disadvantages. And the number one disadvantage is the cost.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't the actual machine like very expensive?
It's over $3,000.
Yeah. Okay. That's
so you have
investment.
The cost of the machine and the energy consumption of the machine.
Right.
It does make food last for like 25 years though.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have $3,000 like just laying around, I don't think I'm going to spend it on a freeze dryer.
No, there's like a million other things I think I would want to invest in before that.
Yes.
But I mean,
yes.
Cool for I know I've seen people use it. It seems like it would be good for eggs, or milk, even the colostrum if you're saving that for if there's an issue with you need that for a newborn baby animal. But I mean, otherwise it's like just I don't know. I would just can the stuff. I mean, I don't know.
Right. I don't either. I don't know enough about it. I just know that I've seen it a lot on a lot of YouTube videos. And it's like they spent $3,000 or more on that.
Right.
It's, if somebody handed me one and said, "Here, try this out," I would try it, but I don't know. I don't think I would spend the money on it.
Yeah, maybe a freeze dry company will sponsor us and we can try out their freeze dryer.
Yeah, that would be lovely. That would be fantastic. We could give it a try, and then we can talk about all the advantages of it
Yeah,
instead of the disadvantages.
I even noticed the energy consumption with my dehydrator, and I don't use
Right.
that often, but I can't imagine with the freeze dryer because I think that needs to run for quite a while before it's completed. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, so I did
I
not
have,
do any research
well,
on that.
yeah. For my dehydrator, I have a very small one. So I don't think I've noticed any type of, I know it has to run for a very long time to get all the moisture out of whatever it is I'm dehydrating. Um, but it's so small, I haven't noticed.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I think it's kind of a bigger one. It's an Excalibur, so I think
Okay.
like 10 shelves inside of it. It does fit quite a bit of stuff. I really like it a lot.
Okay. Mine's a teeny tiny off-brand one.
Okay. Yeah, I was, someone was kind enough to give me one for Christmas. That's why I was able to get the one I have. But it does work
Cool.
well. I do enjoy it. What kinds of foods
Nice.
do you typically dehydrate?
So I usually dehydrate berries, and then herbs from the garden.
Okay. Yep. I do a lot of herbs. I make calendula salve. So I dehydrate a lot of the calendula, and I've been doing chamomile
Yep.
this year. I have made jerky a few times, which is
I
fun.
have made jerky. Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of fun to do. Or I've
Yes.
do liver for the dogs for dog treats. I'll make the liver snacks in there for them.
Oh, that's
Um,
a good idea.
yeah, herbs, and then I do tomatoes. That's nice
Yes.
sometimes. I think that's pretty much all I've used it for. I just did strawberries actually. I had a ton of strawberries. I had left over
Yes.
my jam and I did those. So those are nice to add into like oatmeal or whatever.
I think I've seen you do citrus too for like the
Yeah,
holidays.
yes, I do a lot of citrus on like Christmas time, Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah. For your beautiful decorations in your
Yeah,
house. I love that.
my garlands and stuff. Yeah, that's fun to do.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Um, so do we want to talk about kind of like some safe practices that we should keep in mind, like while we're preserving our food? I did just write down some tips on safe canning practices.
Yes, definitely. The number one thing I can think of is make sure your equipment is clean.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. I wrote, well, just use, and I think using, especially if you're first starting out, use an approved recipe or a recipe from a reliable source. It
Yes.
doesn't necessarily, I guess, have to be approved, but as long as the person is knowledgeable and it's not just like a random post you found on Pinterest or something, just kind of that person is.
Right.
Also, before you consume the product, I said just check for signs of spoilage, any broken seals. Obviously, if you see any visible mold, you wouldn't want to eat that. And yeah, like you said, making sure that your equipment is sterilized properly,
Yes.
especially the cans before you go ahead and go forward. I did write the number one thing that you would want to look out for is botulism,
Yes.
which is a toxin that's produced by bacteria. It doesn't have any visible signs and there's no smell to it. And so you wouldn't necessarily know that the product had this in it. So you just want to, to avoid it, just make sure you're using the safe canning practices.
Yes. Foodborne botulism is actually relatively rare, but it is a very lethal toxin.
Yeah, I did. I actually looked up the statistic of that because I was curious how often this even happened. So it says, so the CDC said there's an average of 110 cases per year, but only 25% of those are foodborne, which is like a tiny amount of people.
Okay.
How many people are consuming canned food products?
Right.
So it sounds scary, but I think as long as you're using some common sense and, you know, using clean jars and all that, I wouldn't worry too much.
Definitely. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and you know, washing your hands. I know that when I am doing food preservation of any kind, I'm washing my hands like every time I change knives, or frequently, extremely frequently, I'm washing my hands.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and the actual product, make sure that's very nice and clean, you know, and you don't want any spoiled. Like if you find a tomato, you cut into it and it's all yucky on the inside, don't can that tomato.
No.
So
No, but don't throw the whole tomato away. You can, you know, cut off the bad part. Just make sure you cut off all of the bad part.
right, yeah, I think, and I think that's kind of, you know, I feel like most people would know that, but just using some kind of common sense when you're going ahead. So what kind of equipment do we need to do these things? Do you want to go over that? Like for people that are, well, maybe I want to get into canning. What, you know, is there a large monetary investment? What kind of stuff do we need to kind of get started?
So off the top of my head, I'm thinking sharp knives. You want sharp knives. You want a colander type of basket to rinse whatever it is that you're going to be canning. Water bath canners are definitely less expensive than pressure canners. However, you cannot water bath can everything like you already mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So low acid foods have to be pressure canned. And there are different levels of pressure canners, you know, based on the size and the brand. So.
And if you do get a pressure canner, you can use that for a water bath canner as well.
Yes.
Just wouldn't put the, you know, you just wouldn't pressurize it. So that can kind of be fun. You don't need a water bath canner and a pressure canner. You could just get the pressure canner if you wanted to and use that for both.
Right. Definitely, especially if storage is an issue too.
Right. Because they are big. They take up a good amount of space. So
definitely. Yes. You're going to, if you're doing tomatoes, tomato sauces, you're going to want, well, it's not required, but we have one of the strainers. It's a special cone shaped strainer that has a wooden dowel type of thing that you kind of run around. It's called something. Oh,
like a ricer, like a food ricer.
Is it? Would that be what it's called? It's similar to a ricer, yes.
A food mill.
Yes. Except it's, you know, it's a wooden. Oh dear.
Put a picture of it and we'll put it on the Instagram page.
Okay. All right.
So what do you use?
I'll do that.
Grate the skin and the seeds and everything from the.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't even do all so I have a food mill. It's like it's all metal. You kind of crank it, and it separates the skins and the seeds. But I just find like it takes so much extra time. So I just use an immersion blender and blend it all up, and you can't tell like I do like yeah, and you can't tell. It's just you just immersion blend it until it's all chopped up and
eviscerated.
Yeah, and I feel like I mean I'm fine with it. Luke hasn't complained, or I don't think he even probably notices. It just saved me a lot of time because I do process a lot of tomatoes. So by the time I was using that, it was like taking hours. So
okay, it would definitely be faster with an immersion blender.
Yeah.
And you leave the skins on?
I do put them in the water quick. I do the little X on the bottom. I'll put them in boiling water, and I will take the top layer of the skin off. So I do remove the skin, but then I just immersion blend everything else. I don't separate the seeds or anything.
Okay.
So Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just personal preference, you know,
Right.
but it does save a little bit of time if you're doing a whole bunch and you don't want to be bothered with that.
Definitely.
I mean, yours is quicker than mine. Mine seem to take forever. It could be the kind that I have too.
Yeah, and it could be I'm using something that's not necessarily proper for tomatoes. Because
Right.
I've also used it for applesauce.
Oh, okay. But yeah, if it works, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was Randy's grandmother's.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, what most common items are you preserving, like with via canning?
So via canning, jams and jellies, tomato sauce. We actually can meat. So we can venison, we can pork, we can beef. We have not yet, but I want to this year can chicken.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Um, Typically, if we're canning venison, it's for the dogs. We add it to their dog food to
Okay.
give them some real meat. Trying to think. We actually also can dry goods, but not in the not in the water bath or pressure canner kind of way. We use our food processor, or not a food processor, our food saver, that you like you suck all the air out of the bags and you seal up the bags.
Oh, okay. Yep.
We have a jar, a lid that you put over your ball jars, and it takes all the air out of the jar. So we can flour and rice that way also, just
Cool.
for shelf stability.
So how much longer is it good storing it that way then? Just if you had it, in a regular container. Do you know?
I don't know the specifics. I know
Oh,
that we we go through a lot of flour here, so
right. Okay. That's cool. Yeah, because I've heard people say to vacuum out the air. Even like I think I've heard people mention that even like with their herbs and stuff. But
yes.
I don't keep them for that long that I feel like I would need to do that. I'm pretty much by the time I'm getting new herbs the following season, the ones that I saved are gone. So
Okay.
I think maybe if you wanted to have several years worth, that would be a good idea to do.
Yes.
But
Yes, and we do. I mean, we stock up, which I'm very glad that we did, that we do, just because of life.
yes, food instability.
Yes, food instability, food security. It's important.
Yeah, so for me, for canning, the most common things I do a lot of green beans. I try to do our year's worth of green beans. Same with tomato products, like just crushed
Yeah.
tomato, or tomato sauce, salsa. I do a lot of jams, applesauce,
Hmm.
corn. We really like these pickled peppers, so I make a lot of those, or then just regular pickles, and sauerkraut.
Okay. Uh, so we do a lot of applesauce, apple juice. We've done grape juice, grape jellies.
So do you have the juice steamer? How are you doing that?
So with juice, I'm pretty much not using a steamer. Um, Trying to think of how I did the apple juice last year. I ran it through. I didn't run it through a press. I just ran it through a filter. Basically, I made applesauce
Okay. Oh, and then just like
and
squeezed it,
then just,
separate the
yeah,
pulp. Okay.
yes, yep, separated the pulp from everything. And
Okay.
it's really good. It's very tasty.
Yeah, because I was looking through one of my newer food preservation books, and she has a whole section of like juicing, but she uses
Hmm.
this like, yeah, like a steamer thing, and I don't have that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't have a steamer either.
yeah, I don't know if I would do it enough to like warrant buying something and then having a place to put it. So it seems cool, but I don't know if I would utilize it enough to make it worth purchasing an extra item.
Yes.
But Seems kind of interesting. So, and we're not big juice drinkers either, really. So, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, yeah, because I did the grape juice, and I believe it was 2019 that I did the grape juice, and we still have some in the cellar.
Right, right.
So,
Yeah. You should make wine.
well, that's another way to save food preservation.
Is
That
that,
would be fermenting,
I
wouldn't
was
it?
gonna say, I think that's fermentation. You just need to go
Yes.
extra long.
Hmm.
All right. Do you have any like tips or suggestions for people just starting out to get into food preservation?
Start small. Um, that's my number one tip. Um, and plan for more time than you think you need,
Mm-hmm. That is true.
because it always seems to take me twice as long or three times as long as I think it's going to.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've had
Um,
many midnight canning sessions, and I'm like, wait, how am I still doing this?
why am I still awake? Why am I not done yet? Um, something else that I have used and I enjoy using is we have a portable propane, not a grill, but like a cooktop. Is it a cooktop? It's one of those Camp Chef little propane burners.
Okay. Like a turkey
Um,
fryer?
well, like a turkey fryer, except it's a dual burner. It's two burners, so I can set it up outside the house, so I'm not heating up the house.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and I can get things to a good boil on that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's good because it can, if you're trying to can stuff on like a 80-degree day and it's a big batch, it can get a little hot and steamy.
yes, can get hot and steamy in the house for
Yes.
all the wrong reasons.
So I had
Oh,
for some tips. If you're just starting out, making jam and jelly is like really fun and it's pretty easy. It's like a good, I feel,
yes.
beginner product to try to make. But now I'm speaking from personal experience. You don't need to make 10 different kinds of jam because you won't eat all that. You do not need that much jam. So just pick a couple kinds. We had so much jam at one point. I had to find like different recipes and stuff to just like, because I didn't want to throw it away. But
Right.
so I did find this recipe for oatmeal jam bars, and I started making them for like every kind of gathering because it uses a lot of jam. Because
Oh,
we just had
cool.
so much, it was so funny. I was like, okay, we need to limit it to like maybe 3 kinds of jam going forward. Like this is funny, which kind of ties into my second tip, which is just preserve things that you're eating, which kind of goes back to our gardening episode where we said to plant things that your family enjoys eating. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, preserve stuff that you actually like to eat. There's some kind of, there's you'll find recipes and things in different canning books that sound fun, but then at the end of the day, when you're not really going to use it, and then it just sits on the shelf. Um,
Correct.
yeah, and not everyone has a lot of storage, so then you're just taking up space that you don't really have. I also suggest logging how much you preserve to help plan the following year, which is something
Yes.
else I am really bad at doing, which I kind of talked about before in our other episodes. And then use the freshest food possible. It doesn't have to be food you grow. Some people I
Hmm.
think are thinking, oh, or they're under the misunderstanding that we're only talking about stuff that we grow that we're preserving. But I do go to local farms to either supplement or just get an entire. I don't grow corn, but I can corn, so I just get it from a local farm, and I can their corn.
Yes.
And
Like
just
I did, we both did with the strawberries this
right.
year.
Yeah, yeah. I do have like a tiny baby strawberry patch. I got maybe like a quart of strawberries. So
Yes, we are planning on putting in a strawberry patch, but
yeah. So
getting in the garden this year seems to be more difficult than we are willing to admit.
right. Yeah. So just go support a local farmer and you can use
Hmm.
their nice fresh product and preserve it, and you can enjoy it all throughout the year. It's really nice in the middle of winter to open up like a nice can of peaches or some strawberry jam
Yes.
or whatever.
Right.
green beans, everything. So, and just have fun with it. I started canning not very long ago, and maybe like 3 years ago, I think. And now I enter like canning contests and stuff, and it's just fun. I don't know. I have fun.
I think it's wonderful that you enter contests. I'm too scared to.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I got blue ribbons and stuff. I was so excited. It was so goofy. I was like, "Watch out, Grandma! Ginny's coming down." The award-winning jam.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's fun. So,
Something else you're gonna a piece of equipment that you're gonna want is a really good thermometer.
oh yes, yep, that's important.
Especially if you're canning jellies, you're gonna want a good thermometer.
Yep, yep, yeah, a candy thermometer, one that gets to a pretty like a good temperature that you can click onto the side of the on the side of the pot that you're using.
Yes.
That's helpful.
Have you ever calibrated one of your thermometer?
No.
I've read up on it. I haven't actually done it. And with maple sugaring, it's like I really need to calibrate my thermometers.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I have not done that.
Okay. Neither have I.
Yeah, no, too lazy, I think. Yeah, I do have a couple though, so I will kind of check. Sometimes if I'm like, this can't be right, I will use like another one to kind of see if it's reading similar.
I do the same.
Yeah, because no, I have not calibrated. And I do have a nice new digital one that I just got.
Okay.
It's on the side, but I can kind of like spot check it with that one just to make sure we're kind of like reading the same.
Okay. I have a laser one that it pretty much only gets like the surface temperature.
Right.
It doesn't get what's underneath.
Yeah.
And then I just actually yesterday with Amazon Prime Days, I asked Randy to order me a new digital one that's on a stick.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So I'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Because I find like this is a whole different topic, but for maple syrup, when we make maple syrup, I don't like, I'll think I'm at the right temperature and then I'll check it on the other thing where it's like, gives the density of it and it's like way off.
Okay.
So
Yes.
So maybe my thermometers are probably not accurate.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing with mine, which is why I'm feeling like I really need to calibrate them.
Right.
And I think it works. I mean, it works for calibration works for whatever you're using your thermometer for. So
yeah,
it is a good idea to do it. It's not difficult. I just time consuming.
Right. Yeah. It's just, and then you don't think of it until you're actually like, you need to use it and it's too late at that point because you're already needing the thermometer. So.
Right. Exactly.
So do we want to go over, like what resources we use or?
Sure. So for me, the number one resource that I have is actually the Ball Jar Complete Book of Home Preserving.
Yep, that's one I have too. That's like the holy grail of canning.
Yes. And then I have Put 'em Up, a comprehensive home preserving guide for the creative cook, from drying and freezing to canning and pickling, by Sherry Brooks Vinton. And my latest purchase, which you have also, is the Farm Girl's Guide to Preserving the Harvest by Ann Aceta Scott. And then there's websites. The USDA has a canning and preserving site. I'm not familiar with exactly. They have canning guidelines on the USDA website.
Yeah.
If you want to rely on the government for your canning purposes.
And I think those are also referenced in the ball jar book.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Yes. What about you? What are your favorite?
Yeah, so I had the ball one. I had the Preserving the Harvest as well. I also have one it's just called Fermented Vegetables.
Okay.
Piece for fermenting 64 vegetables and herbs. It's by Kristen and Christopher Shockey. And then
Okay.
a fun book, if you just like are into jams or whatever, is the Blue Chair Jam Cookbook by Rachel Saunders. It's like really beautiful. The cookbook is just beautiful in general. It has really nice pictures and little stories to go with the recipes. So it's kind of just enjoyable to look through. I just enjoy cookbooks in general. If they have nice pictures and stuff, I just like looking through them. And this is a really nice one.
Okay. I'm all for a good book with pictures.
Yeah, the strawberry jam recipe that I had sent you came out of that cookbook.
Okay, wonderful. It was a
Yeah.
really good recipe.
Yeah, she does. There's really nice stuff in there. So, any fails or anything you want to talk about that hasn't
So
gone?
we do a lot of freezing of our harvests basically, and my number, I have two main fails, and we talked about corn when we talked about our gardening episode. My biggest fail was potatoes. I did not realize that you need to pre-cook your potatoes before you freeze them.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, you end up with a gray, mushy, disgusting clump of potatoes. So I learned that you really do need to cook your potato, let it cool completely, and then process them.
And
Unless, of course, you're canning them.
how are you cooking them? Are you just like cubing it up, like peeling it and cubing it and
I
boiling?
am cooking them whole.
Okay.
I rinse them and then put them on pans in the oven for an hour, cook them for an hour, and then letting them cool completely. And then I'm either cubing them, shredding them, like pre-making hash browns, or cutting them into quarters for mashed potatoes. And then we're using the food saver and vacuum sealing them and putting them in the freezer.
Okay. Okay, cool.
That's one of my favorite things to do because it makes potato cooking so much easier. We eat a lot of potatoes in this house.
Right. Yeah, I haven't stored potatoes any other way other than like the cold or the like root cellar method.
Right.
I wanted to can them. We'll see how my potato harvest is this year if I even have enough to warrant doing that. But I've just been storing them like I have like wicker baskets, and I just do like a layer of crumpled up newspaper, potatoes, more newspaper, and just potatoes, newspaper, and just kind of layer them on top of each other.
Yes.
And that worked pretty well. Last year was the first year I did it. Your potatoes were the potatoes I used that I got from your house, and it worked really.
Okay. Well,
They,
that's great. How
yeah,
long did you keep?
for many, many months. I was eating them, well, I think until like January.
Nice.
Yeah, until I ran out. So they did
Okay.
good that way. I wasn't sure how it was gonna go. I did keep them in a room that stays cooler.
Right.
So
It is recommended for root cellars that you keep them the temperature between 32 and 40 degrees for root cellar storage, which 32 is freezing.
right. Yeah, and you can't get below freezing. That is not
Right.
fair. That'll make it go rotten. So, I mean, I do store, so I stored garlic, a year's worth of garlic, a year's worth of onions, also winter squash, like butternut squash and
Yum.
spaghetti squash, and just gourds that I had grown for ornamental reasons and just whatever. I just kept them. I was feeding them to the chickens every once in a while. In
Mm-hmm.
a room that's colder, it's not that cold. The room probably stays around 60 to 65. And
Okay.
it all lasted beautifully. If you do try to do that, you just want to make sure that you're curing the food beforehand, which depending on what type of food you're speaking of, there's different methods for that, and you can easily find how to do that online, or just in a food preservation book, depending on if it's
Yes.
a squash, if it's an onion, etc. But I don't know, I just kept it on a wire shelf. It all lasted pretty good. So
Cool. Good. I'm glad it did.
Yeah. So I had a couple fails. Well, I've had like many jams and stuff not set. Um, but then you can just use it as a sauce, like over ice cream or over some kind of dessert. It's not necessarily
Right.
lost. You can still find other ways to use it. I did try to ferment hot peppers last year, and I'm really new to fermenting food. That was like one of my first things I tried to ferment, and I got really nervous about it after a couple days, and I threw it all away. But now after I've been like reading more about it, because there's like sometimes like a film can kind of form on the brine, and you just skim it off. But I didn't know that. So I got real nervous
Okay.
and I threw it all away, and I wasted so many hot peppers that I grew. So that was definitely
Oh,
a fail. I'm going to try again this year and not throw it away.
okay. The only experience I have with fermentation is kombucha.
Okay.
That's it. I would like to try to ferment other vegetables. However, I think I would be the only one who would eat them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty much the only one that eats them too now. I'm
Okay.
trying to get Luke to eat. I've been giving him little bits of like sauerkraut and stuff, especially if we're eating like a pulled pork sandwich. That's a good thing.
Oh, yum.
It kind of
Hmm.
is masked, you know.
Hmm.
Because they are so good for you. And that was actually one of my biggest takeaways. If we go back to our the review of the Homestead Festival, was how important fermented foods are for your gut health. So
Yes.
I've been really trying to implement them. I actually made from Anne's book, the Preserving the Harvest, I made fermented garlic scapes.
Nice.
And those were really good. I've been putting them in like scrambled eggs and stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really yummy. So I don't know. I think that's all for my fails.
Okay. There is nothing worse than when jars don't seal properly.
Oh yeah, that's always
So
bad.
when you're canning and you have jars not sealing, you got to make sure that the lip of the jar is clean. Like after you filled them, you have to wipe them down, and not to put the rings on too tight.
Yep. Yep, I've definitely had my share of that. But then I just do you try to recan them? I just put them in the fridge.
Yeah, that's same. It's like it's going to get used first.
Right. Yep. But that is sad when that happens.
Yes.
Yeah, but I feel like that's if you're rushing and you're not cleaning off the top of the jar, like if you had some spillage when you were filling it, I feel like that's like the number one cause of
Yes.
that thing. Just having a little something in between the lid and the jar.
Hmm.
So what's your favorite and your least favorite method of food preserving?
I would say my favorite is probably canning. Um, whether it's pressure canning or water bath canning, is when you hear the pop, the little tink, or I can't make the sound, but when the jar seals, that is like so satisfying. After you've pulled them out of the hot water and they just and it's like tink tink tink, not necessarily that fast. My least favorite method is probably dehydrating because it takes so long. I love it, but it takes a long time.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I would say my favorite is the canning. I just find it really satisfactory to see your shelf lined with your jars filled with the food that you've preserved. It just looks so pretty to me. I just really like seeing that. It's very satisfying. And sometimes I'll make like a cute little topper for the jar so the one in the front looks even cuter, or make a fun label if I'm feeling like really extra.
Yeah.
But
You extra? No way.
and Luke built me this really nice jelly cabinet out of just like all found materials in our barn that was here, I think, when we moved in. So now I have that. I can put all the jars in. It's really nice to open the cabinet door and just see them all lined up in there.
Yes, I have not seen it in person, but I've seen photos, and we'll have to definitely share them on the Instagram account because
Yeah,
I love your jelly cabinet.
it's really cute. He did a really good job on it. And I think it cost us $0 because we just found all the stuff. So,
Cool.
which was
That's
even
even
better.
better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say my least favorite, I kind of feel like it's dehydrating only because sometimes I have a hard time knowing if it's fully dehydrated. So I've had an issue with not letting it go long enough and then it gets spoiled, or I
Okay.
let it go too long and it's just like a dried crisp. So I still need to kind of hone in how long to let the foods go, because I did like a batch of tomatoes last year to make, I was going to grind them up after I dehydrated them to do tomato powder, and
Okay.
I let them, I was like, I don't think they're done. I don't think they're done. And then before I knew it, they were just like burnt crisps. And
Okay.
I still tried to make the powder, but it just tasted burnt. Like it wasn't.
Oh.
So
Okay.
yeah, I feel like that's the one I struggle with the most, just personally knowing if it's done or not.
Okay. Have you dehydrated onions?
No,
Okay.
but I hope to, because I want to make onion powder. I have dehydrated garlic and I've made garlic powder, and I've dehydrated ginger and done ginger, like
Oh,
brown ginger or whatever.
that's cool. I have not done ginger. Um, and I've heard with garlic, you either need to slice it really thin or you need to eviscerate it, or not eviscerate it, but like make it basically into a paste and then spread it out. How did you do yours?
I sliced mine real thin,
Okay. All right.
but I think, yeah,
Because,
it might even be better doing it like putting it through a food processor, like, and just spread
okay.
it out kind of. I don't know. Maybe I'll try that this time.
Okay. Because they said you don't want to let them, you don't want to just dry out the whole clove because you'll never, it'll destroy your blades on whatever you're using to make the powder.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I feel like that would take forever too for it to dry
Yeah.
out. So, yeah. So that's been my struggle, but hopefully as I, do it more and more, like this, the herbs and stuff, that's like easy, it's more been, I guess, meatier stuff that I've been having I
Hmm.
struggle with a little.
Yes.
We did get some, well, I found some questions online. It was 5 questions to test your home preservation knowledge. Did you want to
Okay.
do those?
Sure.
Okay. So I think we've answered most of them like just in our talks. So
Okay.
the first one was, what is the bacteria of the greatest concern?
Botulism.
Yep. Yep. And I did write, just do be aware of potential risks of spoilage with botulism, but don't let it scare you. Don't let it stop you. Just use common sense, clean practices and follow the recipe and you should be okay. And like we said, the statistics are extremely low for food
Mhm.
related botulism. What is the pH level that divides low acid from high acid? So this would be water bath canning versus pressure canning.
Are they looking for a number?
Yeah,
So is it 4%?
4.6.
4.6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, what is the reason we blanch vegetables before freezing?
I want to say to preserve freshness, but
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
yeah, yeah. Just it's really just, it sounds like it's just to preserve the color and the flavor.
Okay.
So I guess you don't need to per se, but if you want it to be the best product, you would blanch it first.
Yes.
And what? So, oh, this is a good for me. Actually, I didn't even realize this was a question, even though I wrote them down. Mold on dehydrated food can result from what?
Not drying enough?
Yeah, so it says case hardening, improper conditioning, and incomplete drying, which I didn't know what
Okay.
case hardening was. So that's, I guess, caused when your temperature is too high and the outer layer
Oh,
hardens, and so it hardens so much so fast that it traps the moisture inside the food, so it's not able to fully dry.
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So and usually most dehydrators have a little like gauge on them, and it'll say, dehydrate at this temperature for this type of food. So,
Yes, and mine is complicated. Like complicated in the fact that I have to pull up the model and then on the computer because
oh,
it's just like numbers, it's not degrees.
oh,
It's like,
okay.
okay, so this number translates to this degree.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes.
Mine's pretty foolproof. It says, herbs this temperature, meat this temperature, fruit this temperature. So it's
Nice.
hard to mess that up. And then the last question was, what is the recommended temperature for a home freezer?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, clearly it's below, is it 0?
Yes, it is 0.
Okay. I was gonna say clearly it's below 32, but yeah, I was
Right.
thinking, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I think mine's at like -2 or something.
Okay.
Just for safe measure.
Yeah.
We did
Huh.
get some questions on Instagram, which was fun. I did put out on our Instagram, if you're listening and you're not following, we're at Figuring Out Homestead Life on Instagram. Give us a follow on there. So we
And
got,
if you are following, thank you very much.
yeah. So we got a couple questions. The first one was from Oak Knoll Farms, Newcastle. And she asked, how long are most canned uh, goods for? So I tried to, I researched the answer. I went to healthycanning.com. So it says 1 year generally is the best by date to ensure optimal nutritional value is left in the product. But as long as the seal is still good, you can use the product for much longer. And the USDA and the National Center for Home Food Preservation said the same thing pretty much. They recommended 1 year for best quality. Beyond 1 year, you may see quality deterioration, but the food is still safe. It just won't have as much nutritional value and it might not look as nice.
Nice.
And then CK Jones asked, well, it was a kind of a scenario. So apparently they were pressure canning green beans, but
Okay.
for whatever reason, the pressure canner did not get up to the recommended
Oh,
PSI. And so they went ahead anyways, and they have the canned green beans, and they wanted to know if it was still safe to eat.
I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I said I wouldn't feel safe eating it. If it didn't
It's
get up.
very, yeah, it's very important to make sure that you get it up to the right PSI for the right length of time. And
Right.
if it falls below that PSI and then you get it back up to temperature, you need to restart your timer, is
Yeah,
my understanding.
right. And that's where I think, in the beginning we said just make sure you're using an approved recipe, and that PSI, the recommended PSI, will be in that recipe that you're using for pressure canning. And yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, if it didn't get up to that, I wouldn't feel safe eating it, because you don't know if it didn't get up to the correct temperature to kill the bacteria. So you don't know what's going on in the can. So unfortunately, I said I wouldn't eat it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And that was all we got for questions. But thank you for you two that submitted them. That's fun to answer listener questions.
Yay!
Do you have any other things to add?
I'd like to add, so Randy and I do like a stock up type of thing. Like I said, we go through a lot of flour in this house. So we buy 50-pound bags of the King Arthur non-bromated, non-bleached flour. Um, and we store that in half-gallon ball jars. And sometimes we will seal them with an oxygen absorber in them as well. So that's Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers are great for storing dry goods.
Mm-hmm.
You do not want to store sugar with oxygen absorbers because it will just turn into a solid brick.
Oh, okay.
So that I think that's it.
Did you have a recipe you wanted to share, like your favorite preserving recipe, or?
So my favorite thing to preserve is the potatoes, and it's
Oh,
really not really a recipe. It's just,
right.
shredding potatoes and freezing them
Okay.
and then cooking them with butter and salt.
Yes. All the good things.
So, all the hash browns.
I did grab just it's not I mean it's again it's very simple. I don't even know if you would call it a recipe, but for sauerkraut, this is in Melissa Norris's book Handmade. But
Okay. I
right.
have that book.
Oh yeah, I love this book. This is a great book for all sorts of stuff. Anything handmade, as the title
Yeah.
says.
Yes.
But like whether it's crafts, soap, like food, everything is in this book. It's really great. Um, so for sauerkraut, you just want to take a head of purple or green cabbage, whatever type of cabbage you're wanting to use, and 1 tablespoon of sea salt. You want to make sure it's sea salt, not table salt. Whether it's Redmond salt or Celtic salt, just some sort of actual sea salt. So you're going to take your cabbage and you're going to finely chop it, put it in a big bowl, and sprinkle the tablespoon of salt over it and let it sit for about a half hour. And you should start to get some juices kind of going in the bowl, you'll see. And then you just want to start massaging with your hands the cabbage. And it's kind of crazy how it transforms just from you massaging it and with nothing other than the salt. It will start to get translucent. There'll start to be a lot of water in the bowl, which is like the brine. That's what you're making is the brine. And you just want to keep massaging, massaging, massaging until it's all mixed in and you have a large amount of brine in the bowl. And then you're going to take the cabbage and pack it tightly into a mason jar and pour the brine over it so that it's all fully submerged. And you can use a cabbage leaf to push down all the chopped up cabbage so that it's underneath
Oh,
the brine. So, because you want everything needs to be underneath the water level.
right. Not exposed to the air.
Right. And you can
Okay.
they sell like weights that go in the jars to kind of weight everything down to ensure it's under the brine. But if you don't have a weight, you could maybe wrap like a small rock in saran wrap, or you could fill up a plastic baggie with water and put that on top. Anything you can use to keep everything submerged in the brine. And then you either can put it just a regular jar topper on there, or they do make special fermenting jar toppers that have a system in it, like an airlock system, so that the gases are all escaping. If you just have a regular mason jar topper, you'll have to release the gases every day or so. So just open the top real quick and then reshut it. Just so it doesn't, because it'll build up, build up, build up gas, and you could have like
For sure.
an explosion, which you don't want. So,
No,
um,
especially not with fermented foods.
no, that would be not good. So just let that sit in a shelf for 1 to 2 weeks, and you can start tasting it to see if it's at the level that you want, the taste you want. And once you're at where you think this is a good flavor for me, you put it in the fridge, and that'll stop the fermentation process, and then you have sauerkraut.
Cool.
So it's pretty easy. I mean, it's just cabbage and salt mixed up. It's like it's kind of crazy.
Cabbage and salt.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And hopefully I have like I think a dozen heads of cabbages, and I just started my fall seeds. I started them late, but I have more cabbage because I just pulled out all the garlic. So I'm gonna fill that with more with where the garlic was. I'm gonna put cabbage in there, and hopefully we'll have a bunch of
Cool.
sauerkraut.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah. And do you have anything else you want to add, or?
I don't think so.
Okay. I don't think so either. I think we covered a lot.
I definitely we definitely covered a lot.
So if you're listening and if you have any questions, any follow-up questions, if you'd like us to explain anything further, please just send us a message on Instagram at Figuring Out Homestead Life, and we will answer your questions for you.
Yes, and if you actually happen to have one of those amazing freeze dryers
Yeah.
and you can list all the advantages, let us know.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And we'll go over that. If you do enjoy this episode, please review, give us a little rating on here. We would really appreciate it. It will help other people find the podcast, which would be great, and it would make us really happy. Also, like I said, we're on Instagram, Figuring Out Homestead Life, so follow us on there. Also, Allison's personal Instagram is Zig and Vine Homestead. I am Mrs. White Homemade Life. So join us on Instagram. We're always posting, different things on there. We do some homesteading tips on Tuesdays and just cute pictures of our animals and whatever's going on around our property during the week. So that would be great.
Yes. Are we going to sign up for a Threads account?
I don't think so. Well, do you want me to?
I don't know.
I don't know if I want to learn another song.
I know there's so much. All right, we'll leave it at that.
I'm like, now I understand like why my parents or my grandparents like just didn't want to learn new technology. I could never understand it when I was little, but now I so just understand. I'm like, I don't want to learn this.
I got you. I'm 100% gotcha.
We'll see. Do the people want us to be on Threads? Let us know.
Yes. Excellent question.
All righty.
All right, we'll catch you next week when we talk about. We haven't talked about this.
Yes, to be determined again.
To be determined. Yes. I have a suggestion we'll talk about offline.
Okay, yeah, and if you're listening and you have a topic that you would like us to discuss, please let us know, and we would be happy to talk about it.
Fantastic.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.